please start the recording. Yes. Okay. A very good afternoon and all present here and those who are connected to us through various channels from different parts of the country. I, Mayur Verma, on the behalf of CCS, National Institute of Agriculture Marketing Jaipur, welcome you all to the webinar by CCS NAM Jaipur. CCS NAM Jaipur being a premier institute established by Government of India to serve various agriculture related aspects such as training, research, consultancy and education in agriculture marketing. Fulfilling its mandate by dissemination of information and knowledge in relation to agriculture marketing during tough time like COVID-19. Now, before I proceed further, I would like to request all participants to please keep yourself on mute unless you want to talk. We have kept separate time for question answers, and hence request you to let the speaker present and finish. You can write your questions in the chat box also, and we will take it up with the speaker. Participants are also requested to provide the details including name, email, phone, organization, designation in the chat box. Providing these details is necessary for further communication. Now I would like to introduce the eminent speaker of today's webinar, that is Dr. S. Sesadri, Honorary Secretary in Indigenous and Frontier Technology Research Center in Chennai. He has 30 years of research and professional experience and published 80 publications and also completed 18 research projects and many more. Now I would like to invite our eminent speaker, that is Dr. S. Sesadri, to please start the session. Please, sir.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon also. Since we are starting in the afternoon, good morning and good afternoon. Hope I am audible now, right? If you could able to say yes, that's fine. It's for
Yes,
me.
sir. Yes, sir. You are audible. Yes, sir. You are
Okay,
audible.
that's fine. That's good. So thank you very much for giving the opportunity. I must thank the director and also the staff members and especially Mr. Karthik also for giving me this opportunity to talk to the participants. And I must thank the CCS National Institute of Agricultural Marketing for this opportunity. So I just, when I was trying to scratch my head, what kind of topics should I talk? And suddenly it occurred to me because now in this space, I'm trying to work with people in the rural areas, especially in the promotion of entrepreneurship. And when I try to almost for more than 2 decades, my interaction with the people in the rural areas, villages, and farming community, and also the associate community also says there is a big requirement for promoting this agripreneurship or entrepreneurship or farmpreneurship, something like that in a different format, so that people start standing on their own legs. This is the understanding behind my choosing this title, and I hope this also gels mostly with the expectation of National Institute of Agricultural Marketing also. And right away, I'll go into my slides. I'll just screen my slide. I hope the slide is visible now. If there is a problem, please sound me so that I'll try to correct myself. I have I try to have this title Rural Agripreneurship for Emancipation and Sustainability in Agriculture. We all know emancipation and we all know sustainability. This is a buzzword talked to by almost all scientists all over the world, and especially people in agricultural ecosystem. They know very well what is sustainability, what is rural, what is agriculture, what is entrepreneurship, all these things. The emancipation is the one we are talking now, and most of the time we also talk in a different plane. Emancipation is the word that try to say that you should liberate people from certain areas. That is why I just chose this, and of course I must thank our friend and 80 years old friend, Mr. Raghavan from Indian Oil Corporation, also for giving me the title. I mean, this emancipation, the word that can be used for agriculture also, because he did a wonderful experiment. I will explain that little later also about that. And coming to this title, coming to the slides, India is still an agriculture country. We all agree we from agricultural ecosystem. Every one of us agree with that. And still, 85%, 80% of the people are in agricultural ecosystem. And India country agriculture contributes around 16% of the GDP. Of course, there is a big debate between the GDP and how India can be viewed, whether it is a gross domestic product or domestic product or gross national happiness. We will come to that later. But still, it's one of the largest sectors for employment. That is where we need to see with the developments happening in COVID-19, and the entire scenario is also changing now. So that means we need to necessarily give more importance to agriculture now, and it's a kind of reinventing the wheel or going back to the roots almost 40 years back what we were. India was full of agriculturists and agricultural workers. People were banking mostly on agriculture related activities and people were happily living their life. And when India contracted this, I would say, scientific temper and moving towards, accurately moving towards the industrialization and development of organization, we lopsided, it had a lopsided development in few areas. I would say the area, I would say, it's one side we were concentrating more on building a lot of academia, and other side we were concentrating more of industries. And in this process, little attention was given to agriculture. And farmers and their extended families constitute huge population, we know very well, and farm income is lower than any other activities. It has to be improved. And that too, with the kind of scenario prevailing in India, we have to give lot more importance. That is why I coined this word emancipation, freeing them from clutches of many factors. It's important to sustain livelihood, continued farm operations, food production, all these things, and also sustain the country also. And because India, with the large population, cannot sustain on importing foods from other countries. And coming to this is still old data. I'm not using this, but still it is good, I would say. And India is full of small and marginal farmers. Around 86.2% own less than 2 acres of land, and they, they own around 47.3% of crop area. Of course, with that they produce 41% of the country's food. In spite of all these things, they try to they languish in the fields, and they are not supported by enough money in return for the hard work what they do. So that is why even we could see in the other side of the academic ecosystem, even this agriculture is sending their awards for kind of education in agriculture, in engineering, in other areas. And of course, we know the plight what is happening now for the engineering graduates, and engineering graduates are hired for 7,000, 8,000 rupees per month, which is not all viable for them also to lead a good life. And there is a kind of reverse migration or different kind of thing happening. We will discuss it a little later. But we need to really address this small and marginal farmers in India. So without addressing these people, India cannot move forward. And with the kind of new developments happening, and from the slogan from the Prime Minister of India talking about self-reliance, and all these things has to have some bearing on these people. And if we know the crop growth, I just try to touch upon this crop growth also. Why I'm touching this purely because all these factors can be addressed and has to be addressed in a different form. That's why I'm telling we all know all these things, but for the sake of brushing our knowledge, I'm trying to bring all these things here. And crop growth is affected by abiotic, climate change, and biotic factors. We know all these things: water, temperature, nutrients, weather conditions, and now the new development is a climate change area. And of course, the biotic factors, we know many things, fungi to virus to bacteria to many other microbes, weeds, and animals. Of course, recently we are income and we are getting a lot of information from Rajasthan, Gujarat, and other parts, even Kerala also. The infestation by the locusts of the plants, and people are suffering a lot. So all these things are happening. So if you really talk about all these things, how the farming is really getting affected with all these kind of factors playing a major role. Are we addressing all these things in a larger perspective? So which is not really happening. Though government of India is spending a lot of money in terms of agriculture, agricultural marketing, agricultural development, in terms of implement many things in this area. I just divided into three areas: pre-cropping, cropping, and post-harvest area. In all these areas, there is a big gap available for us to fill it. Though we might say we are addressing all these things, and I'll come to that also a little later, why we have to really concentrate and how people are concentrating in this area. This is a most important requirement we need to address. The one is the fragmented farm size, and the small holdings play a big role. As we said earlier, 85% of people still holds a small marginal areas. And with this fragmented land system, it is highly impossible for one to get with decent profits out of plowing their lands and using that as an income for their livelihood. And second thing, if you see the depleting resources at a macro level, when we talk about 50 years, if you go back, people are living with natural resources and not the good rains and also good groundwater with the kind of developments happening. I mean, the bore wells and many other things change in the cropping systems, alternative croppings, cash crops, and a differential approach towards different crops grown by people in different soils. The resource also getting depleted, and we also parallelly we had the green revolution in with us, and that also encouraged more amount of chemical fertilizers and pesticides in soil that also added to the woes of the farmers, where now we are sitting with very poor soil quality. That is ultimately we also are pushed to the level of assessing the nutrient status of the soil and also the increasing the organic content of the soils. And added to this, the water is another big thing we will also discuss in the later slides. And the water and climate change has its own problems. I mean, they work together and try to create a lot of havoc in the agricultural ecosystem. And the next one is input availability. And parallelly also, if you go back 30 years or even 20, 15, 20 years, in some pockets also, I would say, still farmers try to have their own seeds, try to control the seeds in their hands. They exchange the seeds and use it for their purposes. Whereas in larger area, especially in the areas where there's a big agricultural spread or transformation happened, the farmers are now dependent on external ecosystem quality seeds. And government is also, I don't want to say they go into big area into this area, but still I would say government is also promoting good amount of seeds. But when farmers start working with this kind of seeds, they always have a problem of quality and also getting uniform growth in the crops. This also impacts on the final output of the farms. And next one is the fertilizer availability. In the fertilizer availability, I'm not excluding one or two. I'm trying to bring both inorganic and organic fertilizers. Now both have become more rare. We know the examples that happened in parts of UP and Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, and other pockets where the soils are almost gone into the level of inert, and now people are looking for kind of external inputs for promoting their crops. And of course, the pesticides availability, this is also another thing. And another last one, this is the most important thing. Now, with kind of, a nationalization or globalization approach or kind of think local and act global kind of scenario, the requirement of the soil quality data, large level data on soil quality, weather patterns, water availability, climate resilience, all these things also plays a major role. This has to come as a top-down approach from the government side or the research institute side, and there is a mismatch between the top-down approach and the bottom-up approach, or that is happening from the bottom or that is coming from the top side. So there is a big mismatch happening here. This also need to be linked in a proper or meaningful way so that farmers get enough benefit out of this. Why I'm bringing all these things, everything has some relationship with the micro level entrepreneurship or kind of clusters development for one to look into. And if we see the soil quality, we have good amount of soils, and every area is fragmented into soil series and soil qualities. It differs from place to place, state to state. Even in states, there are a lot of soil change, quality change happening because India is one of the, countries with more number of agroclimatic zones and also dry land, wetlands, and many other areas, right from Jammu Kashmir to Tamil Nadu. If you scan, we have a differential ecosystem where we get good amount of rain, where we don't get rains, where we are snowed with a good amount of snowfall, and we have there are places where we don't get rainwater at all. So all these things is a kind of mixed thing. So still country is pulling along with kind of ecosystem now. So what was even in the drylands, what was seen as a wetland in some 15, 20 years has become drylands now purely because of the change in the cropping systems or the preferences, all these things. And if you see the soil organic content, you can see almost the quality has gone zero now almost in few areas, and maximum you can see only 1% or maximum of 1% that is prevailing in almost everywhere in the country. All other areas have been deprived of soil organic matter, which is the real requirement for one to say that we are growing good crop. So unless otherwise we ensure good amount of soil organic matter, we can say even the transformation of nutrients also happening from soil to the plant. So this is another thing, and also that also has a corollary effect on the needs for the soil microflora, increase in the soil microflora. So next it is, if you see, Okay. So this also warrants the need for soil analysis. That means the farmers have to be advised on the soil quality analysis. That's more important. The chemical, biological factors and also physical factors. Based on the physical and chemical factors, the biological also has to be improved. So without this kind of advice, the kind of nutrients to be used, the kind of fertilizer to be used, kind of organic inputs to be used. So farmers also now or I would say they are somewhere in the crossroads because the old memory is lost from the last generation and a new breed of farmers. Of course, we also know the average age of the farmers is also very much gone up. Now, though Indian average age is almost hovering around 20 to 40, and it's going to be there for another 30 to 40 years, it is going to hover around 20 to 40 years. The young generation are going to flood the Indian soils. The average age of the farmer is almost 45 to 50 now. That means almost all our memory is gone. Even these farmers who are we are working with are all people who do not know what to do with their soils or what to do beyond their agricultural ecosystem. That is why they are also hanging over this agricultural system. And we need to infuse new knowledge for these people also to renew their agricultural activities. So I am again telling this is even I just want to give a small anecdotal experience also here. And in the area of fertilizers, pesticides, or inputs, most of the time farmers are taken for a ride by the dealers or retailers. And retailers also have their own problem in terms of economics, and they also sell wherever they get good profits. And the kind of profits also drive them to sell spurious inputs, ultimately that have a bearing on the productivity of the crops also. And this is general all over the country. I don't want to say this area, that area, or this pocket, that pocket. That the country has come to the level of analyzing the soils. Though government is pushing hard to come up with soil health cards, all these things, the spread of the soil quality analysis in the farmers level it still has to happen. So that is important that we need to give more importance to. Next, if you come, the water availability, again, this is another larger scenario India has to consider and work on. See, in the expectation of growing wonderful crops or cash crops or the best crops, what the soil can hold, farmers have moved from their traditional cropping patterns to new cropping patterns, which had a worst bearing on the soil, water, groundwater, and water. If you see the water availability in India, India is one of the countries facing drought or kind of water shortage in the years to come. It means 54% of India faces high to extremely high water stress. And if you see, these are all the states that having will have a bearing on this. And this one, if we can classify, I don't want to go much, but thing is, India is one of the countries where water is abused and groundwater is also used more, and is one of the top 10 countries growing using good amount of and a very good amount of groundwater, which is not healthier practice. And this is another area India needs 250 lakh quintals of quality seeds to have successful Kharif in 220, according to Indra Shekhar Singh. But thing is, I just brought this number, but thing is, the availability of seeds are more important, and quality seeds is the most important requirement, which is not there. Though in vegetables area we could able to succeed, in fruits area we could able to get some results. Where there are some pockets, organized cultivation systems, there farmers are endowed. In larger area, if you see the rice or wheat or other areas, still farmers don't have are not ensured of good quality seeds. This is the biggest problem. And coming to this fertilizer consumption, farmers do not know what amount of fertilizer to use, and in that process, they also use more amount of fertilizers. There is no optimization happening in the farm fields, though we are still inferior in terms of using chemical fertilizers and also pesticides. Of course, we must remind that the Prime Minister also said there should be a reduction in the chemical fertilizer and the pest manner to help stop the exploitation of soil and other natural resources. And we must try to address this. And there are umpteen number of ways to work on this also. I'll come to that. And pesticide consumption is another area. Somebody is raising a hand. I think we will discuss this little later also. We'll at the end of this we can try to discuss the questions. We have some kind of concerns also in this presentation. So pesticide consumption also, though India is still lower in terms of per capita consumption, we use good amount of pesticides, and of course the lower consumption is attributed to low purchasing power and small landholdings. I would put it in different form. The lack of soil, organic matter, and a kind of local ecosystem is the one that has lot of problems. So that if you come to this the factors, the key crops grown, and the factors playing a larger role in crop selection by the farmers, we can see the crops are cereals, millets, pulses, and vegetables and fruits. And rice still occupies one third of the area, and wheat 25% of the area, cereals 25 million hectares, and commercial crops, of course, people grow sugarcane, cotton, jute, and etc. etc. All these things. I don't want to go much further. And these are all the factors: natural factors, government policies, and economic factors, social factors, historical factors, all play a major role in choosing the kind of crops by the farmers. And just want to say, more than natural factors, the government policies also has pushed the conversion of people from one old to one traditional cropping patterns to new cropping patterns. And of course, added to this, economic factors also play a major role in the choice of crop. And of course, I don't want to give much importance to social factors, though they, in the remote area, we used to tell rice is better than millets, all these things. In those days, now things are changing. Of course, we have to move towards the soil and climate-based cropping patterns again, and this ultimately lead to climate-resilient agricultural systems. And the cropping period, this also affected by more number of factors like this. One is the lack of manpower, shortage of farm laborers, diversion of workforce through other routes. Even I have to put here this MNREGA, where people are moved from the agricultural ecosystem, and the seasonality of employment, where people don't get jobs continuously on a monthly basis, and lack of structural support systems for the farm workers, all these things, and low mechanization. Of course, now we have moved to the level of tractorization, and poor penetration of simple machines. Of course, we work with large, huge, monstrous machines. We don't have small machines to work with. Of course, now the agricultural ecosystem also getting flooded with small machines. It requires a lot of support or kind of infusion of new knowledge in this area of mechanization also. And third one is the poor credit access. This also warrants most of the farmers to choose only few kind of crops. Otherwise, there will be different kind of things also happening. The new development is the Kisan Rupee card from the government of India. This is another, I mean, I would say boost for the farmers, but still we have to go further. This Prime Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana is another one. Though we had crop insurance for many years, there are a lot of local level or pocket, even area level problems still associated with that in terms of evaluating the damages or compensating the farmers. So this also has to be changed, and we have to go to the level of personalization or individualization or working with the farms, particular specific farms or group of farms, instead of talking about districts or taluks or kittas or state. So this is where we need to really go to the micro level and try to work with the farmers in the local area. So this requires a different kind of approach also. And the post-harvest area, again, we would say the inadequate storage facilities also lead to distress sale from the farming side, and also leads to lower price for the people, and also they are getting exploited. And the lack of processing machinery also never allows the farmers also think differently and come up with the new products also. Most of the time farmers are forced to sell their products immediately after the harvest, but they can't get good profits. And if there is a mechanism for them to store or try to get some kind of credits in the farm level at the time of harvest, there's a possibility farmers also can store for some more time and try to get some good profits. Of course, Government of India has come up with new policies that also I'll try to highlight little later. And poor logistics is another one for supply chain management. We'll discuss again. And this is a more important thing. The climate risk profile of India is alarming, and we have to necessarily address this at a global level, and at a macro level also. India has to address this climate risk management on the side. And this is more important. Coming to this post-COVID-19 scenario, there is a big job loss happened in the urban ecosystem, and there is a migration of labor happening from the cities to the villages. That means that's called reverse migration, and that is adding very good number of people in the villages. And there's going to be a huge competition or a kind of adjustment in the jobs in the rural areas. And this also warrants thinking in a different platform or a different, I would say, different angle, so that all people get engaged. And it also warrants decent income needs and also increased manpower cost to the farms. That means if there's a competition, we can say that there will be the decrease in the cost of the farm labor, but it's not going to be the case, because there is going to be increase of all kind of commodities where people are going to spend, or there will be a chaotic environment happening in the villages also. And this burgeoning of villages, that means increasing number of people in the reverse migration happening in the villages, whether it's going to be temporary or permanent, we do not know. Means, and the governments I mean, it's a central or state or the panchayat are bound to help all these people and increase demand for products, processing services in the localized level. And this is a recent publication from the Santosh Mehrotra, Professor of Economics from JNU, and he talks about the reverse migration to villages. That means he says it has taken India back to 15 years. I would say that is good always. Instead of having a rat race towards economy or GDP or kind of making money, all these things, if people are grounded with good amount of salaries in even in villages, that's going to be a wonderful scenario. Only thing government has to create an enabling ecosystem, and that is also has come up now from the government, and we must really compliment this developments happening. Sorry, there's a thing. Okay. Um, so this another thing is happening. So he says reverse migration has increased the workers in agriculture by 5.2 millions in a few weeks. That means this many number of people are going to go back to their villages and they are going to look for jobs. And government is also trying to um, do all kind of damage control. And interestingly, government of India has Indian government has missed the third revolution, but still it holds good. I would say, from my angle, if you ask, it holds good as it sends more people outside to learn many things and also bring more technologies to India, or move out of their city, even villages or a place of living, move to other area and bring new technologies to the area of living. This also is going to change a lot. So, and what is the requirement of the farming community? Almost everything. We all talk about that. And there is also big development happening in our condition in the external ecosystem. I would like to touch upon all these areas. If you see, recommendation on a timely basis, soil, climate-based cropping systems, soil analysis for optimal use of inputs, water budget analysis recommendation, weather patterns, all these areas they need recommendation. They need quality inputs. Mechanization is another important requirement in terms of irrigation, small machines, optimize input optimization tools, and also repairs and maintenance, and crop monitoring tools including modern gadgets, advanced support system also another requirement. And the post harvest area people need lot of things including market linkages, supply chain, and last most important thing is the timely availability of finance and crop protection including insurance. This is happening still, everything is happening, but we have to give a big push to this. But if you see in this area on the right side, there is a big development happening from the government side. Government departments are working and universities are working, and there are a lot of incubators happening now, and many incubators, even agri incubators dedicated for promoting agriculture is also happening. Accelerators are there promoting more people. Interestingly, India has seen more than 500 startups from the larger ecosystem. I would say the best academic institutions and best levels doing startups to solve the problems faced by people in the rural areas. But the thing is, are they really helping at micro level is one question we need to really see. Thing is, I would say, as I told earlier, the recommendations on the soil and climate-based cropping system will be a large ecosystem from the government side. These startups at certain levels can help the government to strategize the operation, help the farmers to decide on the kind of crops. And interestingly, the input side, corporates also working a lot, coming up with many new ideas and inputs, and also cropping patterns, and also linking the farmers with the market systems. And investors are also upbeat nowadays, and even they are showing interest. I could see investing in the agricultural developments. So with all these kind of happenings, there is a big push now in India, but still this push is not required for us to reach the last mile. For us to reach the last mile, we need to have look at the rural India also as a separate entity. These are all, I would say, endowed entities, but there is the other side of the entity which is not endowed. Even the laborers, if you say migrant, the reverse migration happening, the laborers going back to their villages are not really endowed. That means we need to work on for these people to come up with new ideas. And another area, this for us to make success this Atmanirbhar Bharat, we need to move towards technology acquisition or retrofitting or use to technology development. Means helping the others will seldom help, but we need to customize. Even the tractorization is one of the things that we gave, but still we need to work a lot according to our requirements. The approach requirements, if you see, and all these things has some bearing on the local level employment generation, also entrepreneurship generation. The village or cluster-centric approach is more important than the blanket recommendation for a larger space. And, and also, this also warrants high resilience, frugal, and with less overheads operations. That means only people in the small clusters can engage themselves in this ecosystem. Otherwise, the large organization may have large overheads and may not be frugal. So we need to talk about this. We know the jugaads happening in different ecosystems. Still, we may have to promote more jugaad in a very structured manner to go to the next level of supporting people in the localized ecosystem. And this also requires close to the customers and customers' place of living. We might say even large corporations can also reach the customers at the last mile, but there needs a kind of channel to employ these people or use this kind of manpower to reach these people in the local areas. And the value services, that means even we may know how we are trying to are taken for a ride by this kind of call centers, but now the entire scenario is changing. We can't have call centers for agriculture. We need to have people working in the local systems. That is another requirement. The thing, even there are examples where even now in Bihar, there is a good article also recently talking about after the removal of APMC and the procurement centers almost lost their sheen and the products are moving from one place to another place even beyond 100 kilometers happening. But it's not the case. But the thing is, we may have to strengthen the local ecosystem for people to play with. And this only will bring sustainability for us to sustain. We need to encourage all these things happening. And it could be a dependent or independent approach. Dependent means I'm talking about the franchisee model or a kind of localized centers model. Independent approach, even those people start their own operations. It could be a one-man show by independent entrepreneurs or by team of people in the local area with a decentralized approach. And I'll go a little more further. Though we have little success in terms of farmer producer organization, which is getting very good support from government and also other organizations, but they have their own way of working. Means we have to work with 1,000 farmers, and there is a kind of pyramidal structure happening from the large farmers to medium farmers to small farmers, where most of the time the bottom of the pyramid is left out with the kind of larger decisions, and they find difficulty in getting kind of their due. So we need to really promote village level entrepreneurs or rural agripreneurship or rural farmpreneurship. That is where I'm just coming to. That means this village level entrepreneurship requires more push from the government side and also institution side in all areas. So every area is an area for somebody to engage themselves and start working. People in the villages may or may not know where to start, how to start. So for that, we need to devise ideas and plans and how at a micro level, 2 or 3 people or individual can start thinking right from the seeds to seedling evaluation to culture, seedling production to distribution and processing, storage, maintenance, even the rental option, rental areas, farm financing. In every area, there are a lot of opportunities for people to work at a rural entrepreneurship level, either in terms of franchise or in terms of localized system, joining hands with the larger bodies, and even the farm management level, monitoring, reporting, and giving feedback to the larger organization and production of inputs. Even we had very good, I could able to evaluate or witness the development happening for other organizations doing this in large scale level with the farmers and also producing farm inputs. They farmers produce themselves and sell it to their own farmers. It means making money by producing themselves. And the other area is this use of digital platforms to support large level decisions. And this last one has a lot of potential, though we need a lot of startups in this area to address it macro level or people living in the cities, even the rural area. I mean, conversion of farm products to nutritious, healthy, and new foods to be sold in the local areas. And this is a new development happening from the government side. We must thank our Honorable Minister for coming up with a wonderful idea. Panchayats to be made convert to industry clusters, and only expectation is the industry clusters can be divided into two. Means one is the real industry MSMEs and the agri MSMEs. I would say I want this to be called as agri MSMEs so that the people really serving the agriculture area. That means 80% of the population will have a different classification so that they get more attention and they will be considered as a MSMEs because in the larger thought process level, Even small companies can be formed with a kind of udyog adhar, and these people can be taught how to run a small companies at localized ecosystem with less burdens and less compliance levels also. So this can be done by agri-business facilitators, could be the incubators in the local level. Now, I don't want to link to the kind of these things to the happening now in the country. There needs kind of abrupt disruption happening in the approach here. It is not. I'm just giving this example because the larger level academia or the associated extension organizations have their own limitations in doing this. So there needs a kind of disruption happening from the different ecosystem to do this activity or to promote agripreneurship. And here, this is more important. Loans to the MSME maybe get risk-free tag. That means we are addressing the production ecosystem, whereas in agriculture also the same can be extended so that agricultural loans also can have a risk-free tag. I'm just trying to bring this kind of idea. This is also coming from emanate. This also emanates from the work done by Kerala government in the terms of Kudumbashree. They try to convert this seminary GA to be used for the other operations in terms of agricultural ecosystem. So there is no harm in promoting the farm worker organizations also. Maybe it will be a dream now. So, if like farmer producer organizations, government also consider farm workers organization so that if more than the farm owners, farm workers are the people real sufferers and they need continuous support from the government side. Now we talk about the next slides also give little more information about the support given by some governments and state governments and the government also, but they need continuous support all through the years, be it a lean period or the cropping period, whatever be the case. This MNREJ is giving money for the people for working on many areas, and but if this MNREJ area is also pushed towards agricultural farm worker organizations, there is a possibility we can create small companies with insurance, PF, link pension, privileges, retirement benefits, and kind of other support for these people. And of course, there will be a requirement from the government also support these farm worker organizations on a monthly basis. All these members engaged in this kind of activities should be given. It could be a lean period dole. Just I try to use this word lean period dole or the cropping period salaries, and that should be linked to the farmer producer organizations at large level, and that can be certified. We can work out kind of modus operandi how this farm worker organization can deal with farmer producer organization and try to earn out of their uh, activities and work. And this also reduces the migration of laborers from the rural area to urban ecosystem, and also increase the security of the families, and also increase productivity in rural areas, ultimately increasing the GDP right from 16% of what agricultural area now contributes to even much more than that, because most of the time when we talk on agriculture, we always compare China. We talk about $400 million to $1.5 billion, and even try to say we are one, if you are one, China is three, all these things. But in terms of productivity improvement, we need to have a different kind of approach from our government side. And we can have other classification form support activity organizations in all these areas. Already we discussed, of course. These are all the requirements tomorrow for us to address in agriculture also. I mean, farm machinery rental repairs and aggregation of farm support workers. That's another earlier we discussed that in engineering, electrical, plumbing, construction, farm with applications. Because why I bring all these things is when our agricultural activity is also mechanized and we go towards the advanced agricultural systems, I foresee this happening tomorrow. That's why I brought in this kind of photograph also of the drone. Because now we started using drones on large scale level, we have to necessarily give importance to all these activities. So we can't say the plumbing is a different thing, it is agriculture different. It has to gel with that. And small companies who engage in the insurance, peer, and other areas. This is the same thing I'm bringing here. So all this given by for this farm worker organization can also be extended to farm support activity organizations. The next one is from associated activity organizations, we can see into finance, insurance, advisory levels, processing levels, storage levels, and farm management. This is another area because most of the time farmers also are devoid devoid of knowledge in terms of farm management or monitoring. This can be done by employees than the rural entrepreneurship so that there can be a good biomedia worked out, and farmers are also left free of their burdens, even because small farmers may not have the wherewithal to go and do that also on a daily basis. Because even if you consider talking about zero point 0.5 acres to 2 acres farm owners or 5 acres farm owner, even the 10 acres is not sustainable in the dry areas, I would say. And there needs a different classification also. And all these areas, this is another area I just we can consider, or the governments and the institutions can consider, are experimenting working with us. And this is another important requirement. Local level input production also fuel the rampreneurship or kind of agripreneurship happening in the local ecosystem. Because if we are to really promote organic cultivation, that also increases the associated activities of dairy farming and other activities. So this increases the vermicompost production, green leaf manure production, and even animal husbandry, biofertilizers production, manure production, all these things. There can be a kind of reverse input production happening, but if it is happening in the local ecosystem, there can be a share happening, but government with kind of controls or minimal controls can mark and have kind of say on this kind of developments in the rural ecosystem also. And of course, these are some of the experiments what we did. And as a result, I would say our experiments, short-term experiments also say the farmers, if there is a support available, they can produce good amount of agro inputs in terms of plant growth hormone spray, biochar production, panchakavya. I'm not talking about my own experience, even the organization I'm associating with. Say example, I can tell you Murugapachati Research Center, which I have worked earlier, and a lot of work has been done in this area. So 500 mushroom producing organization for people, and 100 farmers could be able to engage themselves in medicinal plant cultivation. That means they are moving from their traditional way of, and 500 farmers engage in alternative crops and dry lands means they are moving, they could be able to move from the traditional crops to new crops, still which are climate resilient. That is the most important point I would like to stress here. Even we can't push farmers to the level of saying that the dryland farmers have to work with only wetland kind of crops. I mean, water loving crops. And even some of the farmers, paddy growing farmers, also understood how to control the water and paddy, how to manage their weeds. All these things are also happening by experiments and also by kind of classroom activities for these farmers. And finally, you can see the 100 individuals adapting post-harvest and conversion of food supplements or kind of food products from the local, emanating from the local level, even that can be converted into a white label, which can be sold by the large organizations in the cities. So these are the small experiments that happen from our side, and still it also gives us an encouragement. A lot of things can be done provided there is a support from the administrative side. Another development really we have to look into in promoting the local ecosystem. We might say it requires larger investments, and this will be a boon for people also in the local areas, even the unemployed youth in local areas to start working on a small experiments, hydroponics to aeroponics, aquaponics to protect the cultivation of crops. And this has a lot of potential to promote more decentralized operations with a centralized approach, because all the supplies can be from the centralized systems or from different organizations working on this hydroponic structures, aeroponic structures, aquaponic structures, even the protected cultivation structures, all can be from different organizations, whereas the small experiments happening in the villages. Why I'm giving you the small experiments for the local area? Purely because larger structures are prone to natural calamities also. And of course, we might say that natural small structures also have their own problems. If they are losing, there will be a big loss. But still small structures are manageable than the larger structure. Also, we could be able to see from farmers working with 1 acres or 2 acres than working with 50 acres or 100 acres. And this also increases the small scale structures, also increases the employment opportunities for small scale farmers. So that's why I'm trying to bring these opportunities also for these people. And another one, if you see, this is what I'm just referring. This is from the Chhattisgarh government, and even this state, some of the governments also question the minimum support price given by the governments or the state government. Now, of course, this is a change happening now. I'm not going to dwell on this, but this is more important. But in a very even this also has own bearing. Mostly landowners get more profits than the tenants or laborers. That is why I brought in this kind of farm worker organizations and farm associated workers organizations to be promoted in a bigger way. And this is another important requirement. Now with this post-COVID-19 scenario,
Mesonetseri zirenga umodzi wese boyendwa ngarwadza.
I think somebody is
Yenda
interacting.
mwane.
Any hello, hello.
Request the
Okay,
participants to please mute your mics.
okay. So the thing is now with this post-COVID scenario, this is an important requirement. Giving money in the hands of farmers is one good thing, but interest-free farm credit is the one required now. The government will also have to think on these lines, or organizations have to think on this line to support more farmers. Because giving money in the hands of farmers is good, but that will help them to take care of their families, but and also to some extent to repay their old loans. But giving in terms of farm credits, interest-free farm credits will also fuel the activities in the farms with the new kind of infusement happening in the form of reverse migration. And this is another development, the farmpreneurship, and this kind of, new law for contract farming also, can, spur the activities or fuel the activities in removal of the farm bunds. And I must compliment our friend, 80 years old friend, almost 70 to 80 years old friend, Mr. Raghavan, who is also spearheading this idea of removal of bund, knocking the bunds and bringing the farmers together to work on a collective farming system. He has done a wonderful experiment, but due to this kind of lopsided land records, poor land record maintenance system, poor belief systems, and poor support systems available from the external ecosystem, he could not move forward. Still, he is trying to take this idea forward to large scale level. So this has to happen to help these small and marginal farmers. So without which they may not get their due also. And this removal of bunds also has a wonderful, proposition where the small marginal farmers are also proud owners of their startup companies. So this can be handled by NGOs working in the localized ecosystem. So the management of the farms also goes easier from the fragmented lands to the large maintained ecosystem. I won't say it's large. I'm not going to the level of the Russian countries where the small farm size is almost 20,000 hectares or something. I'm talking about little manageable farm size. I'm not talking about zero point 0.5 to 10 acres. This could be a kind of farm approach, but 20 acres to 50 acres or something like that, so that the operation goes much easier also. Even 100 acres also is a wonderful thing, or the village or the cluster. And this giving freedom to the farmers to sell anywhere also give the collective bargaining, and this also will have a bearing on this removal of farm bunds and making small farm owners as owners of the company do some small activity and sell it to the right buy sell their products to the right buyers. And there also needs a cultural change. This I am bringing in very much. This is a lot of years, and though we have a lot of agriculture related programs happening in different campuses, seldom these students spend more time in the village ecosystem. And we need to really push. Seldom means there are programs, farm stay programs available, but there should be a change. Even today morning, I was getting to hear one of my friends talking about the Pareto ratio or Pareto's numbers 80-20. What we do is 80% classroom activity, 20% field activity. That has to reverse to 80% field activity, 20% classroom. The Sitara is sending a lot of students to the village, remotest of the corners of the country, to study the geographical patterns, water availability, and demographic dividends and demographic changes. And we must also know, we all know how Professor Anil Gupta from IIM Ahmedabad doing the Shodh Yatra, taking their people and identifying the developments happening. So this needs a cultural change in terms of academic campuses also looking into the development of the country as a whole. So with this, I stopped, but of course, only two slides I have. These are the recommendations. When I spread this information, there's going to be a small talk about my on this agripreneurship. I asked for some recommendations. These are the recommendations given by some of our friends in different ecosystems. Special package for dryland agriculture means there should be a approach. We can't have a classification of small and marginal farmers. Like we need to even have a different definition for dryland farmers also. And the dryland classification for small marginal farmers should be different from the would say. So that requires different, and of course, the classification is not going to be that easy, but we need to really move towards that kind of classification for farmers to get enormous benefit out of their activities. And this also will have a large bearing on the soil quality and water extraction from the ground below ground levels. And even I can tell you dryland agriculture working with minimal water or no groundwater and will be a wonderful opportunity for us to support in the large scale level also, right? So like that, the promotion of alternative crops instead of water-loving crops to alternative crops, and even removal of MFP is a wonderful thing. Now farmers are left to sell whatever their products they produce to the larger markets, and natural leather production, the processing is another thing. And protein rich, the conversion, I mean, moving from, so, I mean, farmers from the traditional crops to growing protein rich green leaves and grasses fodder to increase the associated farm level activities and decentralized system. Of course, cold is the one given by them, but I would say storage systems for agri producers in rural areas, and of course, research and development, production, sales, and repair of simple agri tools, equipment, reduce drudgery and ease of operation. This area requires larger money or investment of money in terms of research and development for the unattended areas. This is more important. Interestingly, the last slide, this is the one today morning I had a chance reading this interesting article by our own Honorable Vice President of India, and he has wonderfully captured this. Of course, he was supporting the recent government's push on the changes in the MSP and also changes in the way the farm produce are traded across the country. And he also brings in the changes that happened in 1970, where India was called as zone and farmers are getting enormous profit in those days itself. And again, with the kind of MSP, all these things, how we went back to the kind of control regime or kind of control Raj. And he says, this is very interesting. If any class of economic agents of our country has been denied the constitutional rights of the freedom of trade, it is farmers. So that means farmers are the one really they don't have enjoy the constitutional rights of freedom of trade. So that means the government has given this push, and we need to really wait and watch how it is going to happen. And there are other sides that happen. Even the Bihar story also says when the MSP is removed, farmers are taken for a ride, but there should be some kind of even control laws to help these farmers also. And he says further he says they don't have the freedom of selling their produce even in the neighborhood. This is also true. Most of the time, farmers are selling to the when processing their own products, even eating on their own or sharing with their own people in the villages, even in the villages. This is irony. And the another one he says is a strong and effective network of farm producer organizations should be created to enhance the bargaining power of the farmers. So it is true. The farmer producer organizations still I have my own questions in working with 1,000 farmers, large numbers. Instead, we need to go to the micro level of village level or even cluster level or small even I would say pocket level approach, even less than a village level approach should be there to create small experiments to show a success in large scale level. And lack of supplementary income for the farmers is another one he talks about. Really, it is very worrisome. Even the recent change in the milk price also is a kind of, I would say, pointers towards the kind of developments happening that also requires a lot of support from the government side. Um, and it requires stakeholders should be taken on board. And that all stakeholders should be there on board. This is also in the words of our Honorable Vice President of India. I'm just bringing it here. But still, it holds good for every activity we are thinking in terms of promoting agricultural ecosystem. With this, I stop. Thank you so much for your patience and thank you for your support. Thank you, NIAM, and also Indigenous and Frontier Technology Research Center for giving me this opportunity to talk. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for a valuable talk and wonderful presentation. Now I request the participants to please raise your questions. Participants can switch on their mics and ask the question.
Hello,
Hello.
Yes, please. Yes.
I am Natarajan. I
Yes,
want
sir.
to know, now you have brought out various requirements required for the farmer and to
Yes,
make
sir.
him as an entrepreneur. But
Yes,
the
sir.
present situation, the
Right.
farmers, even they do with interestingly, they are unable to market their produce,
Right, sir.
mm, produce profitably, which
Right,
they
sir.
are unable even to repay the loan which they received from other financial institutions.
Right, sir.
This is the conditions presently facing by every farmer. What
Right.
is the infrastructure that you plan to provide for the farmer for marketing the produce profitably and get away from their debts?
So I would
Thank you,
suggest
sir. Thank you.
these are all, I would say, it's a kind of blue sky ideas, or they require a lot of discussions. But thing is, my suggestion would be to create uh, pocket approach, I mean, cluster approach, or a kind of area-based approach. And we need to create, as I told you earlier, instead of talking about farmer producer organizations of working with 1,000 farmers or 2,000 or 5,000 farmers, having all these people, we need to have structured approach. Well, large farmers can be different and medium level corporate farmers can be different. And we need to really start working with the small and marginal farmers and with the kind of different classification what I told earlier. And we have to create small experimental ecosystem happening, I mean experiments happening in small pockets. We can identify even small pockets where we can work, and there needs to promote these kind of organizations. We need to identify people from the local ecosystems, work on farm workers, as farm associated workers, and as farm producers. If these three companies are, I mean, I would say company or institution or startup or entrepreneurs, even farmer also is, I would consider farmer also as an entrepreneur. If few farmers, I mean, 4 or 5 farmers, small marginal farmers joining hands and being an entrepreneur themselves will be a wonderful thing. We need to change the laws also to suit to this happen. But thing is, farm worker organizations can happen very easily because now it is happening in the form of self-help groups. And now, only thing we need to change this classification to from self-help groups to farm worker organizations and bring them under the control with the government of India or state government support, so that they are assured of income or they are assured of payments every month on a monthly basis. With this DBT, direct benefit transfer to the people individuals, this can happen very casually. Even small experiment happening all over the country. Even every state can have at least 2 or 3 experiments done in this area, so that even 4 or 5 associated entrepreneurship promotion in the area in a concerted manner will show, even within 1 year we can show lot of developments happening. And with this kind of reverse migration happening, and people for another to the areas where they were working, and these people with new knowledge will be interested to take up some kind of new activities also. Only thing it requires for people to go and discuss with them and also tell them how they can work, how they can enjoy themselves, and straight away they can be assured of support from the organization or the administration side. This is very much possible, but it requires experiments. And with the kind of standard organizations, this may not be possible. Standard organizations, I don't want to say structured organizations, it cannot be possible because they have their own way of operations and they may find difficulty to even alter their approach also.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions from participants?
Sir, hello.
Hello. Yes.
Is it audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
You're audible.
Yes. Sir, what are all the ways available to make the students to communicate with the villages or the farming community to make them as an agropreneurs or agro entrepreneurs? So, inculcating the curriculum or modifying the curriculum with the agri entrepreneurship. or is there any ways, or is there any novel ideas available? Please tell so that we can
Yeah.
implement in
If you
academics.
ask me, I'm one of the proponents of having business development and entrepreneurship as one of the courses for all students coming from the college ecosystem. And even the AACP or ICAR or any organization, they should bring this business development and entrepreneurship as one of the courses, mandatory courses. I won't say elective, mandatory courses for every students to undergo. This is more important. But if you, for your specific question, I would say this has to come from the campuses. The academic campuses has to tweak their curriculum. This is more important. You have agricultural extension, you have agricultural engineering, you have all other verticals and all other organizations. I mean, other campuses also have their own way of doing things. But the one missing thing is the push to send the students to the farmlands. And if you ask me, all agriculture universities are the universities or campuses working with agriculture or plant growth have good relationship with the governments, state government, be it or central government. And second one, every district has a Krishi Vigyan Kendra working for the promotion of people. And every state government has agriculture department. Every district collector is expected to work closely with the farming community. And every month there is ombudsman happening from the collector side, having this district agriculture offices also. The only thing, the missing connect has to be linked. The bridge has to be formed between this campuses, also the district government department, so that there can be a seamless transfer happening of the students visiting the villages. Even the recent government policy of adopting the villages by the universities also has a big say, I would say. And even the 5 villages adopted by the government can be shown as the areas where the agricultural students start their entrepreneurship activities. It requires push from within, and it will not come from the top down approach. Government cannot come and say, please do that. Every university or every academic institution has to start thinking on these lines. But whereas there can be a kind of directive from larger organizations to think on these lines. And of course, you see, Niti Aayog is working with schools also to promote innovation and entrepreneurship, right? Even when the school students are allowed to think on entrepreneurship innovation, why not the students in the college ecosystem or university ecosystem? Whereas if you see in the incubators also, I would say it is not welcoming sign now. This is happening only for the few. The incubators has to reach out to many students in all the university ecosystem or in their ecosystem to tell the students what is business promotion and entrepreneurship.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Participants, if any more questions, you can contact directly to our speaker, either through mail or contact number. Okay, then we can now winding up the session. I, Mayur Verma, on the behalf of CCS National Institute of Agriculture Marketing, thank all participants, eminent speaker, and the organizing team for the smooth conduction of this webinar. Thank you all and have a good day. Thank you, sir.